The meeting took place on a small space station at the edge of neutral territory. It was an old trading post that had been empty for years, but it still had basic life support and artificial gravity. Commander Thexval arrived with 6 of his officers, all armed and ready for trouble. He expected the humans to bring an equal number of soldiers. Instead, Captain Dongwoo Kim came with just his 3 crew members and Jihoon Nam from the freight ship. "Where are your soldiers?" Thexval asked, his crystal body reflecting the station's dim lights. "We don't need soldiers for a conversation," Dongwoo replied calmly. "Please sit. We have things to discuss." The crystal chairs were uncomfortable for humans, but they managed. Thexval and his officers arranged themselves across the table, their dark eyes studying the humans carefully. "You could have simply taken your people and left," Thexval said. "Why did you ask for this meeting?" "Because you made a mistake," Yunsu said. "You think you understand humans, but you don't. We have dealt with your species before. 3 merchant ships paid our demands without any problems. Those were private traders," Jihoon explained. "They were trying to avoid trouble and get back to business. We understand that. But when you took military people, you crossed a line." "What line?" Dongwoo leaned forward. "You turned a business problem into a family problem. Those traders were on their own, making their own choices. But military people represent all of humanity. When you took us, you took something that belongs to every human in the galaxy." Thexval's translator buzzed as he processed this. 4 people cannot belong to billions of others." "That's where you're wrong," Heijin said. "In human culture, we have a saying, leave no one behind. It doesn't matter if we're military, civilian, rich, or poor. When someone threatens one of us, they threaten all of us. That makes no sense. No species can afford to risk everything for so few, can't they?" Taehyun pointed to the view screen, which showed the human fleet still surrounding the station. "Look outside. Hundreds of people left their jobs, their families, their safe lives to come here, not because they knew us personally, but because we're human." Thexval looked at the display. He had been trying to understand the human response for days. "Your government ordered them to come?" "No," Jihoon laughed. "Our government told them to stay home. They came anyway. Then who commands this fleet? Nobody. Everybody. Each ship's captain made their own decision to be here." Dongwoo smiled. "That's another thing you don't understand about humans. We don't need orders to do what's right." One of Thexval's officers, a younger alien named Kexhan, spoke up. "But you risk so much for so little gain. What do you achieve besides getting back 4 people?" "We achieve something more valuable than any ransom," Yunsu said. "We prove that humans don't abandon each other. Every person in this fleet knows that if they're ever in trouble, other humans will come for them too. That knowledge makes us stronger," added Heijin. "It makes us braver, more willing to take risks, more willing to explore dangerous places, because we know we're never truly alone." Thexval was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he asked, "What happens now? You have more ships than us. Do you destroy us?" "No," Dongwoo said firmly. "We're not conquerors. We're explorers, scientists, traders. We came here to get our people back, and that's what we did." "But you could destroy us," Kexhan pointed out. "We could, but that would make us just like every other aggressive species in the galaxy. We're trying to be something better." Jihoon pulled out a data pad. "We know you've been taking people from other species too, making their governments pay ransom to get them back. That stops now. You cannot give orders to the Vorthak Empire," Thexval said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "We're not giving orders. We're making you an offer." Dongwoo activated a holographic display that showed star charts. "These are the territories where you've been operating. Human ships will now patrol these areas regularly, not to attack anyone, but to make sure no one else gets taken. If you try to capture anyone, human or otherwise, you'll deal with us again," Taehyun added. "And next time we might bring more than a few hundred ships." Thexval studied the star charts. The areas the humans were talking about covered dozens of trade routes used by many species. Patrolling them would require a massive commitment of ships and resources. "Why would you protect other species?" he asked. "They are not human." "Because it's the right thing to do," Yunsu said simply. "We don't want to live in a galaxy where people get taken from their families and held for money, so we're going to make sure it doesn't happen." The meeting continued for several more hours. The humans explained their beliefs, their values, and their determination to protect not just themselves but any peaceful species that needed help. When it was over, Thexval found himself in a situation he had never faced before. His ship was undamaged, his crew was safe, and the humans were offering to let him go without punishment. But he was also being told that his people's way of life, taking hostages and demanding ransom, was over. "My superiors will not understand this," he said finally. "Then help them understand," Dongwu suggested. "Tell them what you learned here, that some species can't be controlled through fear or threats, that some people will risk everything to protect strangers they've never met. Tell them," Ji-hoon added, "that humans remember their friends and their enemies, and that it's much better to be our friends." As the alien delegation prepared to leave, young officer Kexhan approached Yunsu. Privately, "Your species is very strange," he said through his translator. "Thank you," she replied with a smile. "I did not mean it as a compliment." "I know, but it's still true. We are strange. We do things that don't make sense to other species. We risk our lives for people we don't know. We refuse to abandon each other even when it would be easier. We protect the weak even when there's no profit in it. Why?" Yunsu thought for a moment. "Because that's who we choose to be. Every day, every human makes a choice about what kind of person they want to be, what kind of species they want to belong to. Most of us choose to be the kind of people who help others, and if others choose differently, then they deal with us." Her smile never changed, but her eyes became hard as steel. 3 months later, Commander Thexval submitted his report to the Vorthak High Command. It was unlike any military report in their species' history. "The humans are not like other species," he wrote. "They cannot be controlled through normal methods. They do not follow expected patterns of behavior. They are willing to risk everything for principles that seem to have no logical basis. However," he continued, "they are also not aggressive conquerors. They could have destroyed us but chose not to. They offer partnership instead of conquest, cooperation instead of domination. My recommendation is that we avoid further conflict with humanity. Not because we fear their military might, but because we do not understand their motivations. They are unpredictable in ways that make them dangerous to oppose and valuable as allies." The report ended with a note that would be studied by alien sociologists for centuries. "The humans have a saying, 'Nobody messes with our people.' I suggest we believe them." 6 months later, the first non-human ship sent out a distress call that was answered not by their own government, but by a human patrol vessel. The captain's message to the rescued aliens was simple. "This is how civilized people behave. We protect each other." Word spread throughout the galaxy that there was a species that would come to help you even if you weren't one of them. A species that chose to be guardians instead of conquerors. The humans had made their point. In a galaxy full of predators and prey, they had chosen to be something else entirely. Protectors. And the galaxy would never be the same. Inside their crystal prison, the 4 humans felt the ship shake. It was a small vibration, but enough to tell them something was happening outside. "That felt like weapon fire," Tae-hyun said, pressing his ear to the wall. "Or ships connecting to us," Hye-jin added. She was holding her homemade escape device, waiting for the right moment. "The power system is changing more than usual." Dongwu stood near the energy barrier, watching the corridor beyond. "Whatever's happening, it's time to move." "Hye-jin, are you ready?" She nodded, placing her woven metal net against the glowing wall. "When the power cycles again, I'll have about 3 seconds before the system fixes itself." The ship shook again, more violently this time. Yunsu was listening to the crystal walls, counting the rhythm of the alien communications. "They're excited," she said. "The vibration pattern is faster, more urgent. I think we have visitors." Outside the alien ship, the human fleet had begun its attack, but it wasn't like any battle the aliens had ever seen. Ji-hoon's freight ship Determination flew straight at the alien ship's main sensor array. At the last second, he turned away, but not before releasing a cloud of metal pieces from his cargo bay. "What is he doing?" Commander Thexval demanded. "The metal pieces are blocking our sensors, sir," his tactical officer reported. "We're getting false readings from all our detection systems." Before Thexval could respond, 3 mining ships approached from different directions. Instead of firing weapons, they extended their industrial cutting beams and began slicing at the alien ship's external communication arrays. "Stop them," Thexval ordered. But as soon as his gunners targeted one human ship, 5 others would appear from different directions, each doing something unexpected. A passenger ship released hundreds of emergency escape pods that confused the targeting systems. A survey ship began broadcasting loud music that somehow interfered with alien communications. The humans weren't fighting like a military force. They were fighting like a swarm of angry bees, each one trying something different, working together only because they all wanted the same thing. Inside the ship, Hye-jin felt the power grid change again. This was her chance, now, she whispered, pressing her metal device against the energy barrier. Sparks flew as electricity ran through the woven threads. The barrier flickered, wavered, and then collapsed with a sound like breaking glass. Immediately, Yun-Soo began her frequency disruption technique. She hummed a complex pattern of notes that made the crystal walls around them vibrate wildly. The sound spread through the ship's structure, interfering with alien communications throughout the vessel. This way, Taehyun said, leading them toward the maintenance shaft he had spotted during their exercise periods. The access panel was locked, but Hye-jin used the remaining metal from their device to short-circuit the mechanism. As they crawled through the narrow passage, they could hear confusion in the corridors around them. The aliens were having trouble talking to each other, and the constant shaking of the ship made it difficult for them to work together. The docking bay should be about 50 meters that way, Taehyun whispered, checking his mental map of the ship. They came out of the maintenance shaft into a storage area. Through the clear windows, they could see the battle outside. Dozens of human ships swarmed around the massive alien ship like small fish attacking a whale. Look at that, Dongwoo said with quiet pride. They came for us. How did they organize all this? Yun-Soo wondered. They didn't, Hye-jin realized. That's the point. There's no master plan, no overall strategy. Each ship is just doing whatever they think will help. As they watched, a converted cargo ship flew past the window. Its hull was painted with the words, "Nobody messes with our people," in letters large enough to be seen from space. Moving carefully through the ship, the humans made their way toward the docking bay. The aliens they met were too busy with the battle outside and the communication problems inside to pay much attention to 4 escaped prisoners. When they reached the docking bay, they found chaos. Alien technicians were trying to repair damaged systems, while officers shouted orders that no one could hear clearly over Yun-Soo's ongoing frequency disruption. Their research ship, Seoul's Pride, was still docked where they had left it, but it was surrounded by alien guards. Getting to it would require a distraction. I have an idea, Taehyun said. He pointed to a control panel near the bay doors. If I can open those doors during a battle, the sudden loss of air will cause problems for everyone. That's dangerous for us too, Dongwoo warned. Everything we're doing is dangerous. But if we time it right when one of our ships is passing by. They waited for the right moment. Through the barriers that separated the docking bay from space, they could see the human fleet continuing its unusual attack. Ships appeared and disappeared, each one trying a different method to confuse and overwhelm the aliens. Then they saw Ji-hoon's determination approaching the bay doors. It was flying slowly, as if looking for something. Now, Dongwoo said. Taehyun activated the emergency door controls. Alarms began sounding throughout the ship as the bay doors started to open. The alien guards were caught off balance as loose equipment began flying toward the opening. In the confusion, the 4 humans ran to their ship. Hye-jin quickly restored power while Taehyun prepared for launch. As Seoul's Pride lifted off from the docking bay, Ji-hoon's ship was waiting for them. "This is the determination," came Ji-hoon's voice over the radio. "Are you the people we came to get?" "That's us," Dongwoo replied. "Thanks for the rescue. Don't thank us yet. We still need to get out of here." But as the small research ship flew clear of the alien vessel, something unexpected happened. Instead of running away immediately, Dongwoo ordered his pilot to stop. "What are you doing?" Yun-Soo asked. "Something that will make a point," Dongwoo replied. He opened a communication channel to the alien ship. "Commander Thexval, this is Captain Kim. We're clear of your ship, but we have a proposal for you." "You are in no position to make proposals," came the alien's angry reply. "Actually, we are. Look around you. We have hundreds of ships and you have one. We could destroy you right now if we wanted to, but that's not who we are." Through the view screen, they could see the massive alien vessel surrounded by the human fleet. The humans had stopped their attacks and were simply waiting. "What do you want?" Thexval asked. "A conversation. Face to face." "You wanted to teach us about how civilized species behave. Now we'd like to teach you something about humans. There was a long pause. Finally, Thexval replied, very well. But if this is a trick, no tricks. Just a lesson about what makes humans different from every other species you've met. As the two ships prepared to meet at a neutral location, the human fleet maintained its protective formation. They had come to rescue 4 people, and they had succeeded. But now they were going to do something that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. News traveled fast through human space, but not in the way most aliens would expect. There were no big government announcements or military orders. Instead, the word spread through cargo ships, mining stations, and small colonies like fire jumping from tree to tree. Jihoon Nam was loading boxes onto his freight ship Determination when his communication system made a sound. A message had come from his cousin who lived on Earth. The message was short. Crystal aliens took military research team. Government won't pay money to get them back. Crew names Kim, Park, Lee, Choi. Last known location attached. Jihoon read the message twice. He didn't know these people, but that didn't matter. They were human, and someone had decided they could be used to make deals. He called his small crew together. There were only 3 people working on his old cargo ship, but they had been friends for 5 years. We're changing our route, he told them. We're going to help some people who are in trouble. Help them how? Asked his engineer, Kyungmin. I don't know yet, but we'll think of something. Within hours, Jihoon's communication system was full of messages from other ships. The mining ship Lucky Strike changed direction from the asteroid fields. The passenger ship New Horizon announced it would be late to its next stop. Even the tiny survey ship Butterfly sent a message. We're coming too. So Young Yoon ran the office center for Titan Mining Station. When she heard about the kidnapped humans, she immediately called a meeting of all the workers. We need supply. Ships? She announced to the miners and technicians who had gathered. Food, fuel, medical supplies, whatever we can give. There are humans in danger and they need help. The aliens might come after us too, said one of the older miners. Let them try, So Young replied. We've been pulling valuable materials out of rocks for 20 years. If some crystal bugs want to mess with us, they'll learn what humans do to things that threaten our people. The mining station's workshops began working day and night. They couldn't build weapons because the station wasn't military, but they could build other things. Tools that could cut through metal, devices that could block communication signals, and small ships that could move fast and quiet through space. Wu Jin Kang had been a military engineer for 30 years before he retired to live quietly on a farming colony. When he got the news, he went to his old workshop and began working again. The aliens use crystal technology, he said to himself as he worked. Crystal carries sound and electricity well, but it breaks easily. Hit it with the right frequency, and it will shatter like glass. He built a device that could make specific sound waves. It was small enough to fit on a ship, but powerful enough to disrupt alien systems. Within days, he had made dozens of them and sent the plans to every human engineering station he could contact. The human response wasn't organized like a normal military operation. There was no single commander, no master plan, no unified strategy. Instead, thousands of individual humans across dozens of colonies simply decided that kidnapping their people was not acceptable. Admiral Sung-Ho Ryu at Earth's military headquarters found himself in a strange situation. His communication systems were flooded with messages from civilian ships, mining operations, trading companies, and private citizens. Admiral, we have 17 freight ships asking for military escort to the alien incident location, his aide reported. Escort for what purpose? They say they're going to get our people back. I didn't give permission for any civilian operations. Sir, they're not asking for permission. They're asking for escort. Sung-Ho looked at his tactical display. Red dots showed human ships moving from all directions toward the area where the research team had been taken. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Get me a communication channel to all ships, he ordered. When the channel opened, he spoke carefully. This is Admiral Ryu. I understand what you want to do, but this is a military situation. Please go back to your normal routes. The response came from Jihoon's ship. With respect, Admiral, our people are in trouble. We're not military, but we're not going to sit here and do nothing. You could be killed. These aliens have better technology than we do. So did the British. When our ancestors threw their tea into Boston Harbor, came another voice from the mining ship Lucky Strike. Better technology doesn't always win. Sung Ho found himself smiling despite the serious situation. What exactly do you plan to do? We're still working on that part, Ji-hoon admitted, but we'll figure something out. We always do. The aliens were listening to human communications, trying to understand what was happening. Commander Thexval received reports that made no sense to him. They're not organizing an attack, his intelligence officer reported. There's no central command, no military structure, no logical plan. Then what are they doing? They appear to be gathering. Ships from across human space are moving toward our location. But they're not warships. They're cargo ships, mining vessels, passenger transports, even some small private craft. Thexval was confused. Are they bringing ransom payment? No, sir. Their communications suggest they plan to take their people back by force. But they have no military coordination, no heavy weapons, no clear strategy. How many ships? The intelligence officer checked his readings again. Current count is 253, sir, and more are joining them every hour. For the first time since taking the human prisoners, Thexval felt truly worried. The Vorthak Empire had dealt with many species over thousands of years. Some gave in immediately to ransom demands. Others sent military fleets in predictable attack patterns that could be easily defeated. But he had never encountered a species that responded to the capture of 4 individuals by sending hundreds of civilian ships with no clear plan except to figure something out. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a message from the human fleet. Put it through. A voice came over the speakers. It was calm, friendly, and showed no fear at all. Vorthak ship, this is the civilian vessel Determination. We're here to collect our people. We'd prefer to do this peacefully, but we're not leaving without them. You are greatly outnumbered and outgunned, Thexval replied. Your ships are not military vessels. That's true, but there are a lot of us, and we're really good at solving problems when we're angry. Your people took 4 humans. Now you have a few hundred humans coming to get them back. Maybe next time you'll think twice about messing with our people. Thexval ended the communication and stared at his tactical display. The human ships were arranged in no pattern he recognized from any military book. Some were approaching directly. Others were moving in wide circles, and still others seemed to be positioning themselves randomly around his vessel. What are they planning? He wondered out loud. His tactical officer, who had fought in many battles, shook his crystal head. I don't know, sir. I don't think they know either. And that, Thexval realized, was exactly what made them so dangerous. The crystal walls of their prison made a steady humming sound that reminded Yunsu of a heartbeat. She had been listening to it for 3 days now, and she was starting to understand something important about their alien captors. The sound changes when they walk by, she whispered to her friends during the quiet time when the aliens dimmed the lights. I think they talk to each other through the crystal walls. Dongwu nodded. He had been watching their guards very carefully. They do the same things at the same times every day. Same number of steps, same paths through the ship, same routines. It's like they can't change their habits. Hye-jin was lying on her back, staring at the glowing ceiling. She had been studying the energy wall that kept them trapped. This barrier gets its power from the main ship. If I could make the electricity go backward into the system, I might be able to break it. How would you do that? Taehyun asked. He was sitting by the wall drawing a map of the ship on a piece of cloth he had torn from his uniform. The metal threads in our clothes are made to pull heat away from our bodies, but metal also carries electricity. Hye-jin sat up, her eyes bright with a new idea. If I can weave the threads together in the right pattern and touch them to the barrier at just the right moment. That sounds dangerous, Dongwu said. Everything we do now is dangerous, Hye-jin replied, but it might work. Their talk was stopped by Commander Thexval. The big crystal creature stood outside their cell, his dark eyes reflecting the blue light of the walls. Your government still will not answer our demands, he said through his translation machine. Maybe you can make them be more reasonable. Our government doesn't make deals with people who steal other people, Dongwu said calmly. We told you that already. All species make deals when the price gets high enough. We have taken others of your kind before. This was new information that surprised the humans. Yunsu stepped closer to the barrier. Others? When did this happen? Where? 3 of your trading ships in the past year. Their governments paid quickly. Small amounts of rare metals and some basic machines. Your people seemed very easy to work with. Dongwu felt cold anger growing in his chest. Those were private traders. Business people. Not Earth military ships. Government, private, what's the difference? Money is money. The difference, Dongwu said slowly, is that now you've taken soldiers. We're not traders trying to avoid trouble. We work for Earth's space military. For the first time, Commander Thexval seemed unsure. Your ship had no weapons. We're a research ship. But we're still military. Dongwu smiled, and it was not a kind smile. And the military never leaves its people behind. After the alien left, Yunsu began working on her plan to mess up the alien communications. She had learned that human vocal cords could make sounds that interfered with the crystal vibrations the aliens used to talk to each other. It's like jamming a radio, she explained to the others, but I need to find exactly the right sounds. She practiced quietly, humming different notes and watching how the walls reacted. After many hours of trying, she found a combination of sounds that made the crystal flicker and change colors. Taehyun had been making a map of the ship during their daily exercise walks. The guards took them through the same path each time, but he had learned to count steps and remember which way they turned. There are small tunnels behind the walls, he whispered. I can see the access doors. If we can get out of this cell, I think I can get us to where our ship is docked. What about guards? Dongwu asked. They follow patterns. Same times, same routes. If we move at the right moment, we can avoid them. Heejin was also making progress with her escape plan. She had carefully pulled metal threads from all their uniforms and woven them into a small net. When she touched it to the barrier wall, tiny sparks jumped between the metal and the energy field. I need more power, she said. The ship's electricity changes every few hours. If I wait for the right moment and use all our metal at once, you might hurt yourself badly, Taehyun warned. Or I might get us out of here. The days passed slowly. The humans kept studying their prison and learning about their captors. They discovered that the aliens were creatures who liked everything to stay the same. Their whole society seemed built on following rules and keeping order. They've probably been successful for thousands of years, Yunsu said. Most species either give up right away or fight in ways they expect. But humans don't follow other people's rules, Dongwu finished. Commander Thexval came to see them often, and each time he seemed more frustrated. The human government kept ignoring all demands. Even worse, human communication networks were becoming busy in ways the aliens didn't understand. Your people are sending strange messages, he told them during one visit. They talk about meeting places and supplies and gathering points. Are they planning to attack us? I don't know, Dongwu said honestly. But I can tell you one thing about humans. We don't leave our people behind. 4 people are not worth risking thousands of lives, Thexval said. No smart species would do such a thing. Yunsu laughed softly. Being smart isn't always the human way. Sometimes we do things because they're right, not because they make sense. That night when the alien ship's lights dimmed for sleep time, Heejin got ready for her escape attempt. She had woven every bit of metal they could find into her device. Taehyun had memorized the guard patrols down to the exact second. Yunsu practiced her sound technique one more time. Dongwu looked at his crew. They were tired, scared, and very far from home. But they were also determined, clever, and completely unwilling to give up. Remember, he said quietly, we're not just escaping for ourselves. Every human who was taken by these creatures, every person who might be taken in the future, they're all counting on us to show the galaxy that humans don't break. Outside their cell, the crystal walls kept making their steady humming sound, but the humans were no longer listening to the alien rhythm. They were ready to make noise of their own. Heejin held her metal device ready. Taehyun watched the corridor for guards. Yunsu prepared to disrupt every communication system on the ship, and Dongwu got ready to lead his people home. The aliens had made a big mistake when they decided to kidnap humans. They were about to learn that some species don't stay kidnapped. Captain Dongwu Kim watched the stars through the front window of his small research ship. The Soul's Pride moved slowly through the asteroid belt, looking for interesting rocks and energy patterns. His crew worked quietly at their stations around him. Heejin Park sat at the engineering controls. She was young but very good with machines. Her fingers danced across the buttons as she watched for unusual readings. "Captain, something strange is happening," she said. "There's an energy pattern about 2 kilometers ahead. It's different from anything I've seen before." Dongwu turned his chair to look at her. "What kind of energy?" "I don't know. It's almost like it's trying to hide from our sensors." Heejin frowned at her screen. "Should I take a closer look?" Before Dongwu could answer, their pilot called out from his seat. Taehyun Lee was usually calm, but now his voice was tight with worry. "Captain, we have a big problem. There's something huge out there." Everyone looked up at the main screen. Where empty space had been moments before, now there was a massive ship. It was so large it blocked out the stars behind it. The hull looked like it was made of dark crystal, and strange lights moved along its surface like living things. "Where did that come from?" asked Yoon-soo Choi. She was their scientist who studied alien life. But she had never seen anything like this ship. "It just appeared," Taehyun said. His hands moved over the controls, but nothing happened. Like it was invisible until now. "And Captain, our engines aren't working." The alien ship was huge. It could have held 50 ships like theirs inside its cargo bay. Strange beams of light reached out from it and wrapped around their small vessel. The Soul's pride shook, but the beams didn't hurt them. Instead, they held the ship in place like invisible chains. "All stop," Dongwu ordered, even though they were already stopped. "Everyone stay calm." A voice came through their radio. It sounded mechanical, like a computer was changing alien words into human language. "Human ship, you have entered sacred Vorthak space. You will give up now." Dongwu stood up slowly. He was a careful man who didn't like to make trouble. "This is Captain Kim of the research ship Soul's Pride. We are doing peaceful science work. We didn't know this area belonged to anyone. Not knowing is not good enough. Get ready to be taken." Suddenly, part of the giant ship opened up. Smaller ships flew out like angry insects. They attached themselves to the human ship's outer hull. Strange drilling sounds came from above as the aliens cut through the metal. "They're coming through the top," Hyejin said, reading her instruments. Dongwu looked at his crew. They were scared but ready to follow his orders. "Don't fight them," he said quietly. "We need to see what they want." Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors. Then their bridge door opened. The creatures that walked in were like nothing the humans had ever imagined. They looked like giant insects made of living crystal. Their bodies caught the ship's lights and threw rainbow colors on the walls. They walked on 6 legs and their eyes were large and completely black. When they moved, they made soft ringing sounds like wind chimes. The biggest one stepped forward. When it spoke, the words came from a small device on its chest. "I am Commander Thexval of the Vorthak Empire. You have broken into our sacred hunting grounds." "We're scientists," Dongwu said, keeping his voice calm. "We study space rocks and energy patterns. We don't hunt anything. It doesn't matter what you do. Your being here is not allowed. You will come with us." More alien soldiers came onto the bridge. They carried weapons that hummed with power. The humans had no choice but to do what they said. The aliens led them through a tunnel that connected the 2 ships. Inside the alien vessel, everything was made of the same dark crystal as the outside. The corridors were very tall and wide, built for creatures much bigger than humans. The humans were put in a large room with walls that glowed with soft blue light. When Taehyun tried to touch the wall, his hand was pushed back by some kind of invisible force. "It's a prison," Yoon-soo said quietly. Commander Thexval stood outside their cell. Through the glowing barrier, his crystal body looked like a statue. "Your government will pay money for your lives. This is how things work in civilized space." "What do you want from us?" Dongwu asked. "Rare metals from your mines, advanced machines from your factories. Your people have things we need. They will trade these things for your lives. And if our government says no," the aliens' black eyes seemed to shine brighter. "No government says no. They all understand that their people's lives are worth more than money or machines." After the aliens left, the 4 humans sat in their crystal prison. The walls hummed quietly around them like a giant musical instrument. "They don't know humans very well, do they?" Heejin said. "What do you mean?" Taehyun asked. Dongwu smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "She means Earth doesn't make deals with kidnappers. Our government never has, and it never will." "So what happens to us?" Yoon-soo asked. "We get ourselves out," Dongwu said. "That's what humans do when nobody else can help." Several hours later, Commander Thexval got a message from human space. He expected the usual frightened response from a government ready to pay anything to get their people back. Instead, the message was very short. "We don't make deals with kidnappers. Our people will find their own way home." Thexval read the message 3 times. In his long career dealing with many different species across the galaxy, he had never received such a response. Every government always paid. Every species understood that some things were more important than pride or principle. He sent the message to his bosses and waited for new orders. The response came quickly. Ask for more money. All species break if you push hard enough. But as Thexval looked at the 4 humans in their crystal cell, he began to wonder if his people had made a mistake. The prisoners didn't look beaten. They didn't cry or beg to be released. Instead, they were looking carefully at their prison, talking quietly to each other and making some kind of plan. One of them, the female engineer, was pulling threads from her clothing. Another was drawing patterns on the wall with his finger. The scientist was listening to the walls and humming softly to herself. The captain was watching the guards and counting their steps. For the first time in his military career, Commander Thexval felt worried. These creatures called humans were not acting like any species he had dealt with before. They seemed almost happy that their government had refused to pay ransom. What kind of people were pleased that nobody was coming to save them? What kind of species left their own people to figure things out for themselves? And most importantly, what were they planning to do about it?